Hello, I'm Bill Hitchcock, and welcome to this special presentation. I did a Zoom interview with John Mallette, the newest member of the North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission. This is a very interesting interview because not only did I do it while John was driving, but John's a very unique individual with quite the diverse background. But enough of me, let's jump right into the Zoom interview with John Mallette, our latest Marine Fisheries Commissioner. All right, we got John Mallette here. He is our brand new North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission Commissioner. John, let me start off with being on the commission. I don't know if I should congratulate you or console you, but in any case, welcome to the commission. We're looking forward to having you on board.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yep, looking forward to it.
I'm going to touch on your background. It was on a show a week or two ago when I saw that you were on the commission. I saw that you were a recreational fisherman. I saw that you were a mate, a charter boat captain, a commercial fisherman, a retail outlet, seafood outlet, a wholesale outlet. You're also a chef and put on cooking demonstrations. And now you're on the commission, which is management. Do you have like a science PhD? Because science is the only thing that's left out of the category.
No, I don't. No, it's just the way life works. I was born and raised around the water, and didn't really have family in it. It's just how life works. I grew up born and raised around North Topsail Beach, around Ocean City. Family had was part owners of Ocean City Fishing Pier, and so I spent a lot of my childhood fishing on the pier. And my mother worked in Wilmington and had jobs, and it was an older lady, Betty Warren, who's long passed away, had one stop bait and tackle in Surf City. She would literally babysit me when my mom was working, and she taught me how to head shrimp. And her husband was a shrimper, and I would go out shrimping with him, and then just started meeting local people and everything from catching mud minnows and finger mullet and sell it to the tackle shops for bait to hanging out and friends. It grew, and just being on the water was my thing. It was what I loved to do. And I like to say I was a dock rat. I was that kid at the docks bugging all the charter boat guys and commercial guys. And I come on the boat and work for you and things like that. And so I got jobs as a mate, as a deckhand. And then fast forward, get my captain's license and traveling, fishing, and spent a lot of time in Central and South America and overseas, and sport fishing, private boats, and then came back to the States full time and went back to commercial fishing and started a retail seafood business right in the middle of COVID, and it just gone into wholesale, and it's just been growing. But I've seen every aspect of it, and pretty much anything involved with fishing, I've done it at a pretty high level at
Well,
some
I do
point.
want to interject that John, while we're doing this interview, is on the road. So he's probably got his cell phone down while he's driving. I guess you're
Oh,
on the
sorry about
delivery.
that.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Sorry.
No, no, it's great. I do want to also interject that I found it very interesting that actually our lives paralleled each other in terms of experience. Although I did it from a television side, you did it from the fishing side. So, but both of our experiences are diverse in both the commercial, recreational, and retail, wholesale, and management. And I'll throw in science aspect as well. Now, let me ask you this, John. You're on the Marine Fisheries Commission. What are you a one hoping to accomplish, and two, what are you expecting?
When the position came up that I was being considered for it, just to be honest, what I really thought was, I said, I can complain on Facebook or complain at the bar, complain hanging out the dock with my friends, or I can be a part of it and actually see it face to face and actually do something instead of just complaining, or having issues or having thoughts and not being able to get them out to the right people. So that was one of the reasons. And what I hope to accomplish is just transparency and fairness for everybody. Something that is blatantly obvious that I'm not a fan of. And like I said, being on the commission, I can't talk actual policy on how I'm going to vote or things like that, but I will tell you my opinions. And what I really don't like is this recreational versus commercial battle that, you know, it reminds me of politics. You have extreme left and extreme right, and then somewhere in the middle, everybody gets lost.
Well, let me
And I
ask you
feel
this,
like,
John, just
yeah,
as an observer, is one of the reasons why possibly that we have this us and them, the Hatfields and McCoys, the recreational against commercial, is that for the most part, recreational fishermen don't live on the coast, so they don't have the opportunity to meet the commercial fishing families in North Carolina or to witness firsthand the process. Do you think that might be a variable to the equation?
I think that's a variable, but I think that's a variable of they don't have access to the information, to the correct information. And I feel like misinformation is a problem on both sides of the aisle. It's not just one way or the other. And what happens is with the days of social media and with the internet, obviously we see it in a lot of things in our life outside of fishing. It's the same thing of if people speak on emotions and not facts, they get
There you
emotional.
go. Yep.
And emotional decisions aren't usually good decisions. And what happens is if they're not there, if there's somebody that they want to believe, that's the information that they're going to run with. And again, like I said, this goes across the board, so it's not just one or the other.
Right.
And the people that I feel like that get lost in all of this are the consumers and the citizens of North Carolina that want to access the water that are kind of in the middle, but it's getting lost in this left versus right, rec versus commercial fight. And divide and conquer has been around for a long time, and nothing gets done. And then usually what comes out isn't good. So I'm hoping that I can be a part to kind of help that change that.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that because I have long been an advocate or just bringing to light that the majority of the user group, let's just talk about North Carolina, the majority of the user group of the coast of North Carolina or seafood doesn't fish. The majority of the people who eat seafood are not fishermen. They're not commercial fishermen. They're not recreational fishermen. But I've not seen their voice represented. So I'm really glad to hear you bring that up. That hey, we got a third party here. It's just not two.
Exactly, and that's something that I'm really big on because I just feel like there's a lot of things that get lost on that. Is like every recreational fisherman isn't doing it purely for fun. You know, I know tons of people that are recreational fishermen that they make a pilgrimage from inland central North Carolina to the coast every fall. This time of year, they're on the way for the run of spots and sea mullets, and when they can get the flounder and the sea bass and things like that, because they're going to put that in their freezer. That's what they're going to eat on all spring and summer. It's not just people that just want to dress up in, a bunch of Columbia gear and go fish and have fun. There's people that are recreational that are doing this as a food source, which what fish is. It's not a toy. Seafood needs to be looked at as a food source.
I've got to interject. You made me think of one time I was going to church, stopped off at the Kmart, just to tell you how old it is in Moorhead. They've been closed for about 10 years. And there were two Trailways buses in the parking lot, and they're all getting ice. And I just said, hey, what's going on? And long story short, both of these buses were chartered from Ohio, and they came down for the spots.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Proof in the pudding right there.
Oh, yeah. And people still do it now. I mean, look at the internet right now. And I'm just going to throw a name out there. If Seaview Pier or Surf City Pier post on their Facebook page that the spots are running, you got people taking off of work. You got people leaving. They're coming down. They're literally coming to, put fish in their freezer to have the fish fries. They're going to have to do it, this. And that goes further than just those people. Look at all the churches and groups that want to have a fish fry and things like that. This is still a thing. I know the old timers that did it real heavy may have passed on, but it's still a thing, even though it's not. And I think those people don't get counted. They don't get looked at. Their opinions don't matter. And a lot of things that's been
I
going
really
on.
believe that most everybody who recreationally fishes is not in the loop of things. They don't know what's going on. They wouldn't know the difference between a bluefin tuna and a blue fish. I mean, that's just
Right.
not their realm. And I also want to add, I can't tell you how many times, like during spot runs or the fall time of year, of going out on a fishing pier when you got your 24-hour pass, that people stayed there for 24 straight hours keeping what they caught. It was for the purpose of food. So again, I'm glad you brought that
Sleeping
up.
in their cars. People sleeping in the parking lots in the back of cars. And I mean, why that give you a perfect example. Why do most of these piers have motels attached to them? It ain't for the tourists. They when the summer tourists are gone and the fall is around, who's making money? The piers
Yep.
and the motels and the tackle shops and all that because of those same people. It's
Yep.
it's more to it than just what you think. And on the commercial side as well is for the exact same thing of, and I think we discussed this once, was this 1-to-1 where you have this recreational fisherman that's going out fishing and it's quantified as, okay, this is what this one fisherman is going to catch. But what's not quantified is they say this one commercial fisherman is catching this month. And like, well, this one commercial fisherman is catching this much fish compared to this one recreational fisherman. But what's not quantified in that is that one commercial fisherman is feeding 100 people that would be recreational fishing.
Right.
So I'm saying that's the difference.
That's a huge difference, and it's a point that is. I'll dance around this. It's a point that some people don't want known, and they get mad when that point is brought up. Now, let me jump into the Marine Fisheries Commission. It's just been less than a month, maybe a couple of weeks. I don't really know since you've been on there. What did you splash into that you're going, oh my, I didn't realize that? What, not specifics, because I realize you can't necessarily talk about specifics, but what topics or subject matters are you going, oh boy, this is going to be something?
Without going deep into specifics, I will say um, data collection is one. Um, is how it's done and what is involved, and most importantly, what is needed. Um, I would say data collection. I would say um, enforcement,
Oh, okay.
fisheries enforcement. Um, you
In which
know,
regards, do you mean we don't have enough, or it's not? What do you mean by enforcement?
again, personal opinion is not anything that's brought up policy yet, but I don't feel we have enough. We make all these rules and things. I mean, we have, you know, I want to say it's around 60 or 62 uh, sworn marine fisheries officers. I mean, don't quote me on that number. It's somewhere around that number. Sworn in marine fisheries officers for the entire state. I
That
mean, you
comes to
can't
about
have
that's like 3 officers per coastal county. That don't work.
right. So you can't even, I mean, small towns have more officers and enforcement than that. So you
Right.
make. I think there's a lot of. I think things are structured as a way as far as laws and regulations for certain fish and certain things to where you're forcing people. You have people trying to do the wrong thing the right way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So what happens is you're making you're kind of forcing people to you're teasing them. You're kind of baiting them into doing wrong things, and you don't have any consequences per se because you don't have enough enforcement to regulate it.
Right. Well, no law is any good if you can't enforce it.
Correct. And again, this, because I know somebody's going to see this and say a certain way. Trust me, this goes across the board. This goes across the board. I can tell you from personal experience. I can go to boat ramps and there'll be certain fish that have a short limit of when you can catch them or bag limit, and people don't like it, and people will go catch it. They will come to the boat ramps and throw it in the cooler in the back of their truck and go right back on the boat and go do it again. See it over and over and over.
Yep.
I also know that there's people who will go illegally commercial fish.
Yep.
And will get caught. And they get caught and they get fined and or whatever, and they say, oh, you can't stay off the water. Okay. Well, 2 weeks later, they're back on the water because you know what? There's a very slim chance that somebody's going to catch them because there's not enough of them in the area. So, I mean,
and oftentimes the penalty is like $100 or something like that. So it's advantageous for them to go on and take the hit if they get caught.
Well, no. The penalty is actually pretty steep now. The difference is they'll have friends and they'll go on a different boat with a different number that, or something like that. So, they'll try to figure out ways around. Now, understand, both sides that I'm talking about are the minority, not the majority.
Right.
I will say that. But just like I was saying about the people that scream the most on the recreational side or the commercial side, it's the loudest, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's what you hear. That's what you see. Yep. And the problem is the minority of people that do the wrong thing get all the notoriety and get the attention.
Yeah.
Because people will say, hey, look, this is what all of these people are doing. This is what it's not that way. And that's why I just think there needs to be a balance of hearing everybody, but representing everybody. Because again, the agencies that are in charge of our resources have to remember that the number one resource we have is people.
Yep. Thank you for saying that.
The people are the number one resource. And I feel like that gets lost because at the end of the day, you take all the science, you take it all of this. One day we're all going to be dead and gone. There's still going to be fish in an ocean of some sort of type. Yep. We're going to go. Evolution is going to do. There's going to be something around. So what do we do to sustain and have the quality of life for us where we can use what God gave us, what we have to sustain ourselves in the way we don't have to trust the government to feed us?
Well, let me ask you this, because probably one of the, if not the most biggest comment I get from folks, obviously being in the media, in regards to fisheries management, is that my voice isn't being heard. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go to the meeting. They're not going to listen to me. I'm not going to submit my comments. They're not going to listen to me. How important is that for you personally to hear from all sectors, all user groups on their thoughts and opinions and experiences?
Well, let me tell you this. This is something I learned from my first meeting, the meeting I was sworn in at. I hear that all the time. I heard that all the time for years from people on both sides, recreational, commercial, everybody out here. I ain't going to mean they done made up their mind before we got there, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
As soon as I sat down and I got briefs for the meeting, even before the meeting, so we have the next meeting November 20th, 21st, I believe, in Wrightsville Beach is the next one. As an incoming commissioner, we get briefs. Those comments that people make online, they print those out and give them to us to make sure that we see them.
Excellent.
That is a fact. We have them with us. We actually talk about it in the meetings using people's public comments. And so they are read. And what I've seen, and come to the meetings, make public comment, be involved. Yes, I got put on the commission, but every citizen, should be what you need to come. come hear it for yourself. If you're available, come here for yourself. Quit listening to what somebody you might know typed on the internet or something like that and believe it is gospel. Come hear it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's an open meeting. It's no different than a county commissioner meeting wherever you live. You can be there. It's public. Come see it. It's public record. So I will say, I can say that I saw with my own eyes, public comments are used and they are considered. They are taken serious. So please make public, and that goes for everybody, not just one person believes in anything. Come make public comment. It's listed.
I think one of the reasons. I think one of the reasons why sometimes folks think that their comments aren't being heard at the meetings, because when you at a Marine Fisheries Commission meeting during the public comment time period, number one, you're given 3 minutes. That's it. And if you're in mid sentence or mid statement and time's up, that's it. But there is no interaction from the Marine Fisheries Commission. So if Bill Hitchcock goes up there and starts talking about stuff, there's no responses, no questions, no counterpoint, no nothing. So I think people sometimes feel like they're not being heard because they're not evoking any reaction.
Well, I will say this. I get that, but there's a reason for that, because if you did that, the meetings would be 30 hours long.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So you have to, when you have the public comment, and I've told this to friends of mine. I've told friends of mine about the meeting coming up. I say, look, take everything that you're telling me, sit down, and put it into a 2 or 3 minute thing, and then come to the meeting and say it. Get your bullet points. Don't, because what's really hard for public comment is to do exactly what I said when we first started talking. It's hard to take the emotion out of it.
Right.
Speak with facts, not emotion. Because when you get emotional, you're going to say things you don't want to say, or you're going to get long with it, and then it's going to get lost in the sauce. Your point's going to get missed. And so, yes, I get that. But, as a commissioner, we have emails. We have, government phones. If you want to say something respectfully, we're there. You have people to do it. Let your voice be heard. Don't just argue with the people that you don't like. Go see something. And I'll tell you one other thing about the meetings. What I like is that the public comment is at the beginning, because then from my understanding, it used to be at the end. So when you've already voted on something, then public comment didn't make sense. So now you have public comment at the beginning where it's doing something. But a lot of people, and I can tell you this from when I was in Raleigh, when the meeting started, there was a lot of people in there. As soon as public comment was over, and then it got into what you might consider boring or whatever, it emptied out, besides a few people. So it's like the people just want to say what they want to say, and then they leave. Stick around, because now you're going to see it for yourself. And look, and if you don't, the meetings, they're live streamed on YouTube. So, it's not like you can't watch it. And, you could type public comment. There's people reading the comments as the meeting's going on, because we had some technical difficulties, and the girl in the back says, hold on a second, I'm not catching up with people's comments online. So there's no excuse.
I want to add something else that I've encouraged people in the past to do. Well, two things, actually. One, as you made mention at public comment period, is bullet points. And I ask people to practice in advance, so you know that you can get everything you want to say within that 3 minute time period. And you also made me think about something, and I hope this isn't too delicate for some, but when my mother passed, I did her eulogy. And the mortician said, no, don't do it. Bad news, Bill, because you're going to break. Well, I wrote it out in advance, and I went over it to make sure that I wasn't going to bust out crying. It's the same thing at a public meeting. I've seen people get real mad, and they just not lose it in the sense of just yelling and screaming, but they get disoriented and lose where they're at. But with all that said, the other thing that I like to encourage people about going to a Marine Fisheries Commission meeting is to meet the commissioners, get so they know you face to face, and that possibly or hopefully can generate dialogue on down the line, so that if, say, in January there's no meeting, no nothing going on, and I want to talk about a fisheries issue, that I can email you or call you, and you know who I am. And I think that
Right.
type of rapport is very important.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I mean, just with any subject, and in my line of work, and honestly, when it comes to fisheries, I've been that, it's real easy. And unfortunately, it's the society we live in today. It's really easy for people to stay behind their phone and type on a keyboard and say all kinds of things. I assure you they would not say to your face.
Exactly.
You know? So I mean, it is what it is. Let's call it what it is. People get very brave, may be sitting at home and watch TV and have a little bit of liquid courage and say some things that they wouldn't say in person, because, whether you can agree to disagree, and there's a respectful way to do everything. And I think that it's important for people to have that dialogue where you can agree to disagree, but can you find somewhere in the middle? Because I feel like if a lot of people would just talk and have general interactions, they may not agree on everything, but they'll definitely agree on way more than they think they would. And then that's how you solve problems. But people are just lazy and just don't want to do that anymore. And they would rather just, either I want everything or I'll take my ball and go home. And
Exactly. No, I like that liquid courage comment you made, because like with the YouTube channel that we put on, I read the comments, and sometimes when the best ones are the ones that are posted like at 1, 2 in the morning, you're going, yep, uh-huh.
oh yeah,
Couple of
oh yeah,
12 ounce curls have been happening there. John, we're
oh
running out of
yeah.
time. And as we said before we started doing this interview, the door is wide open to you. We can talk about anything. But since we're running out of time, I wanted to throw the ball in your court and say, is there anything in particular that, or subject matter, that you would like to bring up that we can talk about before we have to end this interview?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Anything I could think of in my mind would probably start a whole separate interview of its own. So I will be honest with you. But I tell you, what I would really like to say is just more on the point of what we just discussed, of no matter what you believe, no matter what side you would say you're on, which I hate that we even have to say that you're on a side, but be involved. Don't put all your eggs into special interest groups of all types.
Yep.
Be an individual. That's what makes America great, is that we can be individuals. We can have our own thoughts. We can have our own feelings. We can make our own decisions. Use that to your advantage and do that. And educate yourself and do it, because it's going to be not as a better benefit for you as a person, but for everybody. And when it comes to fisheries, remember, this is for everyone, not just one type of person or another type of person. This is for everyone across the board, citizens in North Carolina and people that aren't citizens that come to North Carolina. So if we want to do some things, it's got to start with the people. The people are the number one. The people are the number one resource, not necessarily, just the fish.
John, this has been a great pleasure. I look forward to our next interview and interview views. Thanks for being with us today.
Anytime, man.
I hope you enjoyed and benefited from that interview with John Mallette. I look forward to watching him work on the North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission and any and all subsequent interviews we can do with him. I'm Bill Hitchcock.